It's not just the settings and costumes that are lavish. Hi, I'm Emily from MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 Downton Abbey characters.
The risk of being impertinent. On your own head, be it.
For this list, we're looking at the best characters from the British period drama. Now, since we're going to talk about how these characters grow throughout the series, there will be some spoilers.
She hopes, one day, that I might be first footman, or even get to be...
Carson had better watch out.
Number 10, Beryl Patmore.
No, listen to me. And take those kidneys up to the servery before I knock you down and serve your brains as fritters.
The chief cook at Downton Abbey, Beryl Patmore, usually called Mrs. Patmore, runs a tight ship in her kitchen, often being frustrated with those around her, particularly her absent-minded assistant cook Daisy, whom we also considered for our list.
Daisy, what's happened to you? I said you could go for a drink of water, not a trip up the Nile.
Mrs. Patmore may not be the most prominent character on the show, but she still manages to have several storylines devoted to her, and her good intentions, bossy nature, and dry, sarcastic sense of humor help make her a memorable character nonetheless. We only wish we had the chance to try her cooking ourselves.
Before too long, her ladyship could run the kitchen with a woman from the village. What with these toasters and mixers and such like, we'd be out of a job.
Number 9, Elsie Carson.
Would it hurt if Ethel were to care for him in your own house? She could be his nurse.
Known throughout most of the show as Mrs. Elsie Hughes, Downton Abbey's head housekeeper may be rather reserved and strict, but she's also a kind woman, who is always there for those in her care and her fellow employees, even when she disagrees with their choices.
See here, in the first place, none of the rooms in this house belong to you. And in the second, I am in charge of your welfare, and that gives me every right.
Mrs. Hughes is also an unusual example of a career woman in a time when the concept was relatively foreign, foregoing marriage in favor of her work at Downton, at least for most of her life. She does eventually marry the head butler Carson, and they're just adorable together.
You can always hold my hand if you need to feel steady.
I don't know how, but you managed to make that sound a little risque.
And if I did?
Number 8, Robert Crawley.
I've given my life to Downton. I was born here, and I hope to die here. I claim no career beyond the nurture of this house and the estate. It is my third parent and my fourth child. Do I care about it? Yes, I do care.
The Earl of Grantham and the head of household at Downton Abbey, Robert Crawley is a deeply traditional, stubborn man who is often resistant to the modern age he finds himself in and the many changes it brings.
You are my darling daughter, and I love you. Hard as it is for an Englishman to say the words.
Despite this, he's hardly a static character, as he grows to become more accepting as the show goes on.
If we don't respect the past, we'll find it harder to build our future.
Where did you read that?
I made it up. I thought it was rather good.
Also, although he makes several questionable decisions during the show's run, Robert is driven primarily out of concern for the welfare of his family, and he's largely a man of honor, even if he does have a few lapses.
I want you with every fibre of my being, but it isn't fair to you. It isn't fair to anyone.
Number 7, Edith Pelham.
So I told her I could do it.
What?
I said I could drive the tractor.
Edith, you are a lady, not Toad of Toad Hall.
Well, I'm doing it.
The middle daughter of the Crawley family, Edith initially feels very much like the neglected middle child stereotype.
Poor old Edith. We never seem to talk about her.
Frequently jealous of and conflicting with her elder sister Mary, Edith takes a while to find passions of her own. But she ends up developing into one of the series' most progressive characters, getting a job at a magazine, learning to drive, and having a child out of wedlock. Her many failed attempts to find love and the fact that she's often her own worst enemy help make Edith one of the show's most relatable characters.
But that's absurd. If Bertie's a Marquis, then Edith...
Edith would outrank us all. Yes, that's right.
Number 6, Sybil Branson.
I know what it is to work now. To have a full day, to be tired in a good way. I don't want to start dress fittings or paying calls or standing behind the guns.
The youngest Crawley daughter, Sybil is, if anything, even more of a rebel than Edith.
Pa, I'm sorry I disobeyed you. But I'm interested. I'm political. I have opinions.
Of course, I blame Branson.
Taking an interest in politics, as well as the chauffeur Tom Branson, whom she marries and who just narrowly missed out on being included on our list, Sybil was well on her way towards becoming the modern woman that her older sister ended up becoming. However, Sybil's untimely death cut that development and her life tragically short.
Somebody do something. The human life is unpredictable.
But you were so sure. What can we do? Help her, please!
But her earnest compassion to nearly everyone she met ensured that Sybil left a mark on many of the show's characters even after her death, and on the fans as well. Number 5. Anna and John Bates.
It therefore gives me great pleasure to say you are now husband and wife together.
The world and the show kept trying to keep these two apart, but we're not gonna do that. They belong together. Anna is the loyal maid of Lady Mary, while Mr. John Bates is the valet of Lord Robert. Both of them are kind and steadfast people whose string of bad luck is honestly unbelievable.
John Bates?
Yes.
You are under arrest on the charge of willful murder.
Their resilience in the face of everything from meddling co-workers to criminal charges to Anna's assault at the hands of another man is truly astounding. And through it all, we can't help but root for Anna and Bates.
Mr. Bates, if we have to face this, then we will face it as husband and wife. I will not be moved to the sidelines to watch how you fare from a distance with no right even to be kept informed.
Number 4. Matthew Crawley.
Papa must be dancing a jig.
I'm dancing a jig. I feel like I swallowed a box of fireworks.
The reluctant new heir to the Crawley name, Matthew is a middle-class lawyer suddenly thrust into high society. In this way, he acts as a great surrogate for the audience, who learn about aristocratic customs through him.
Don't dislike him before you know him. That's the hallmark of our parents' generation, and I forbid it.
Although his courtship with Mary is full of misunderstandings and hurdles, that makes their eventual union all the more satisfying, and Matthew's death after the birth of their son all the more heartbreaking.
Lady Mary Crawley, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?
Yes.
Matthew's warmth and intelligence were sorely missed from Downton Abbey after this, and the show was never truly the same. Number 3. Charles Carson.
If you're tired of style, you are tired of life.
Downton Abbey's head butler, Charles Carson is arguably the most conservative main cast member, being even more set in his ways than many of the aristocrats on the show.
Just a minute. I've never been called a liberal in my life, and I don't intend to start now.
In spite of his distrust of new technologies and ideologies, Carson is still a fatherly figure to many of the staff, as well as something of an advisor to the Crawley family.
You cry, my lady. You have a good cry. That's what's needed now.
Even when he disagrees with someone, he usually acts with honor and integrity, at least for a man of his time. Carson is everything you could want from a butler and more. And have we mentioned how cute he and Mrs. Hughes are together?
You can hold my hand. Then we'll both go in together.
I think I will hold your hand. It'll make me feel a bit steadier.
Number 2. Mary Talbot. The Crawleys' eldest daughter, Mary at first seems cold and distant, and her bickering with Edith is hardly endearing. However, there's more to her than there seems at first, as she's supportive of her friends, especially her maid Anna, and can be as kind and generous as anyone.
Where is the marriage to be?
Just in the register office in Ripon. It wouldn't take long, but...
Go. I'll cover for you.
Her romantic relationships bring out this side of her especially.
You came. To be honest, I wasn't completely sure you would.
I'm glad to hear it. I should hate to be predictable.
While a flawed person who has difficulty expressing herself and often acts before she considers the consequences, Mary is still one of the series' most beloved characters, though not quite the best.
But with people like us, we need to marry sensibly, especially if we're going to inherit the family show. It's a way of life that isn't for everyone, and a bad marriage can poison it.
I could listen to these characters talk all day. Like, seriously, can I have Mr. Carson read all of my audiobooks, please? Anyway, there is one character that might top them in grace, grandeur, gravitas, but mostly savagery. Here's some honorable mentions first, though.
You were a servant.
I was. I am. And I was glad to get the work.
My mum's in service. She works for Mr. Travis at the vicarage.
Dad's a gardener at Skelton Park.
But I never gave up on learning, do you see?
I was very drawn to him, and I'd got the impression that he felt the same way. I was wrong.
It seems an odd mistake to make.
When you're like me, Mr. Carson, you have to read the signs as best you can because no one dare speak out.
No one ever warns you about bringing up daughters. You think it's going to be like Little Women. Instead, they're at each other's throats from dawn till dusk.
Well, you see, it's terribly difficult.
Yes, I thought it might be. Now, are you going to accept my conditions, or do I throw you to Lady Rosamond?
Why are you helping me?
I'm on the side of the downtrodden.
Right, here's what we'll do. We'll go up now and speak to your valet. He can take everything you need to my house this evening.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Violet Crawley.
You are quite wonderful the way you see room for improvement wherever you look. I never knew such reforming zeal.
I take that as a compliment.
I must have said it wrong.
Oh, you know you all saw this coming. It's not like she's a weekend or something.
What is a weekend?
The Dowager Countess of Grantham, Violet Crawley is easily a fan favorite character in Downton Abbey, and it's not hard to see why.
Oh dear. I'm afraid the war has made old women of us both.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but then I always keep out of the sun.
Although a staunch traditionalist, the Dowager has hidden depths and is never afraid to speak her mind about nearly everything.
Don't worry, I believe in rules and traditions and playing our part. But there is something else.
And what is that, pray?
I believe in love.
This leads her to be among the most quotable characters in the series, as her sharp wit and sheltered upbringing lead to some truly hilarious one-liners. Can we please get a prequel spin-off with her now?
Oh, what on earth's the matter?
I'm leaving in the morning, Lady Grantham. I doubt we'll meet again.
Do you promise?
But is there a strange universe where I want Professor McGonagall and the Dowager Countess to interact? Yes. Yes, I do. Oh, it's good. Anyway, who's your favorite Downton Abbey character? Let us know in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to MsMojo.